Hello beautiful people, welcome back or welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to be reacting to some of my favorite reads, 1-star reviews on Goodreads. I'm very excited to get into this because I absolutely love watching people react to these. Goodreads can be a little chaotic at times, but people on there are, especially 1-star reviewers, are some of the funniest people, I swear. And so I'm really excited to get into this, though it might break my heart just a little bit. So we're gonna pop open some caffeine because I feel like it's necessary for this video. Since I film on my phone, we're gonna be using my iPad to look at these, so let's just get right into it, shall we? We're gonna be starting off super strong and going in with a bang and starting with Pride and Prejudice, one of my all-time favorites. I am a diehard fan of Pride and Prejudice 2005 with Keira Knightley. Absolutely love that movie. The book is great as well, but I will be a ride or die fan forever. Because it's a classic, I feel like we're gonna get a lot of really funny 1-star reviews, so let's just get into it. Hatred is too strong an emotion to waste on this literary Twilight. I absolutely love Twilight and I love Pride and Prejudice, so this person and I would probably not be besties, but I can respect the opinion. This did not provide what the classic literature girlies have promised that it does. I came hungry and was left starved and dehydrated. I can understand where some of these people come from due to the fact that romance is a highly saturated genre and there are so many types of romance out there. Classic might just not be something for, I mean, classics aren't for everybody. They aren't everybody's cup of tea. But I think with classic literature, like these were set like, not necessarily Jane Austen's in particular, but classical romances set the blueprint for what romances we have now that everybody is obsessed with. They may not be over the top like some of the current romances, and they definitely aren't spicy, so I feel like they can be a disappointment to some people who are only into romances for that kind of stuff. But that is a funny review. I starved and dehydrated. I'm sorry, I can't understand that with Pride and Prejudice though. This one just says, I'm sorry, I tried. And that is fair. I mean, there are classic books that I don't think I will be into if I read them. And usually that means I'll just stay away from it. But I do understand that a lot of people would read Pride and Prejudice due to its large popularity, especially because the movie adaptations, every single one of them, amazing. Though, again, biased to 2005, Keira Knightley performance, chef's kiss. So I totally understand that classics can be very dull, they can be boring, but I think you have to be, like, for me to read like a classic, I have to be in the right headspace. I need to be in an analyzing mood, you know, because some things you kind of have to decipher with old English in some classics. I understand, and honestly, fair point to this person for saying they tried. As long as you try, I think that in the end, reading is about finding your taste, and if you didn't like it, that is okay. A lot of the 1-star reviews on Pride and Prejudice on Goodreads consisted a lot of the characters being dull or not understanding why people rate it so high, because the characters are, again, dull, boring, or they don't understand why it's a highly reviewed romance book because you don't see Mr. Darcy a whole lot of the book. While I think some of these things do ring true for Pride and Prejudice, I wouldn't necessarily hold it against the book and put it into a 1-star review, because I think a lot of these things, though usually unfortunate, like having dull and boring settings and characters or having unlikable characters, is usually something that would give a 1-star review and is very unfortunate for a book. I think gives Pride and Prejudice and a lot of Jane Austen's novels a lot of its charm, because I just feel like not every single character has to be likable, because in real life that's just not true. Not everybody is extremely likable or the perfect person, so I think that gives a lot of its charm. And I think that Mr. Darcy not being in every single chapter or every single page, you know how people say in absence the heart grows fonder? I think it's kind of that idea where they're not together 24/7, and that is what makes Elizabeth take the jump to decide that, yes, I do like Mr. Darcy, I want to be with him, even though she had rejected him in the past. But anyways, moving on to our next book, which is Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. I read this series over and over again when I was younger, probably even starting in middle school. I started reading it over and over again, but it has been a good probably like 6 years since the last time I read this series, so I really do want to reread this series. But I thought it would be fun to look at the 1-star reviews of the first book in the series, which is Hush Hush, and I already think that I know like kind of what the 1 stars are gonna be. This is an interesting kind of fantasy romance, paranormal romance, I think. Again, it has been a while since I last read it, and there are definitely themes in the book that I don't remember well, but I do think that people are going to read this book to filth, so I'm excited. These books, the Hush Hush books, I actually think that they're probably more mature than I should have been reading when I was younger. I honestly don't remember them being super spicy, but in current time, I've been hearing more and more people talk about the Hush Hush series, and people are saying, you know, it's spicy, but I honestly don't even remember those parts, which maybe also says something about like when you're younger, you just don't really you don't stick on to those parts as much as an adult probably would. At least I didn't, but my memory's not like perfect, so maybe that's part of it. I do think that the Hush Hush books probably have some like cringy romance lines. They're probably pretty cheesy, so I'm hoping to see some of that in the reviews because I want to relive the experience of like cringing at an old book that you used to love, you know? This review is super long, so I'm just going to highlight the first line of it because I think that that is probably the best part of it. If you're thinking about reading this book, run. For real. It's just Twilight, except everyone is horny but fallen angels. No one deserves to shed brain cells the way I did while reading this. I think every single book that I love maybe just has a connection to Twilight. It is Twilight season right now. We are getting into fall, and the Twilight movies were filmed like where I'm from, so I just have such a connection with it, and I guess that's just gonna show in these reviews as well. We got another Twilight comparison. I kept comparing this book to Twilight and it just gave me Pick Me vibes. I mean, it was basically the same difference. Nora wasn't the brightest main character, rather weak, I'd say, and very uninteresting. And Patch wasn't that mysterious. The writing was pretty plain, but I reckon I would have liked it if I was 10 or 11. So fair, because that is when I rated the entire series 5 stars. I mean, I don't remember exactly what age I was, but it was probably around there. Maybe I didn't reread the book. Maybe I only read it in middle school. I don't remember, but I read it like 3 or 4 times, the entire 4-book series. So I think that I can remember, like, sure, I can agree with some of this stuff where people are calling Nora, the female main character, a pick-me and like weak because she is written in a damsel in distress way, because the whole idea behind the book is there's like fallen angels and humans, and at first like Nora is getting like hunted to be used as a sacrifice, if I remember correctly. And I believe Patch, which is our male main character, he is the one who's going to be doing the sacrifice. But then it kind of changes into, of course, like a love story, and then her being protected by Patch and the other like good fallen angels, I suppose. I think that that premise can definitely be construed as like a pick me vibe, but to me that's just not what pick me means. I don't think being protected necessarily means pick me, but I also know that people call like Bella from Twilight a pick me as well. But I think that that phrase, like the pick me girl phrase, people took it and ran with it, which happens a lot on the internet with people, you know, learning a new phrase and just using it over and over again. And I do think Nora probably has some pick me, choose me, love me vibes for sure. Though of course I can't remember like completely, but I also think that it is just like a cutesy like young adult paranormal romance. And I think that it's really funny the amount of times in these reviews I've seen Twilight mentioned and the word cliche or calling Nora stupid. But I mean, when you think that the world is only humans, but then there's magic and fallen angels and bad guys and good guys, you don't exactly like, I mean, not everyone would be like, oh yeah, this is totally normal. Some people would probably be in denial at first, and you'd probably be like, no, nobody's out to get me, nobody's out to kill me, I'm good. And I think that's probably how Nora acted in the first book, if I can remember correctly. She was like, I don't believe you guys, you're pulling a prank on me. So I can see where some of these reviews are coming from. Hush Hush is a cool book. I think that's the best appropriate word to describe it. The story is well developed, yet I feel that some parts of the novel just seem to repeat themselves, and that makes me a little angry with it. But as soon as you pass the first 200 pages, things get a lot more action. Nora is very nice, but I just don't get along with Patch's personality. He's just too cocky and arrogant for my taste. Yet their chemistry is very strong, and I feel it. I like the book, and the cliffhanger is making me read Crescendo, which is the second book in the series, since there's a large plot still to develop. But I just don't like Patch, and that is why I gave it 4 stars and not 5. Something happened in between them writing this review, and I was gonna say while reading it, this sounds like it should be like a 3 or a 4 star for them, and not a 1 star, but something must have happened. They must have reread it or something, because they changed it to a 1 star. So I don't know if that review necessarily counts, but I'll still put it in anyways, because I think that we need like a refresher from all of the poor talk behind these books. This book was laughably horrible. I don't mean to shame people who loved the book back in the day, but reading it in 2020 when it was published in 2009, it did not age well at all, which is fair. There are books that I've read that came out back in the early 2000s and they did not age well to me either. Like, just some of the dialogue was not for me. I didn't enjoy it, and so I can get where this review is coming from, and I'm sure if I reread it today, my thoughts wouldn't be the same about this book. But that also kind of sucks, because I would like to reread the series, because I do remember the romance being cute, but if it's going to change my opinion on the book, I don't know if I want to ruin that. There's legitimately no chemistry between the two love interests other than sexual attraction. Patch is flat out creepy towards Nora, and she says she's weirded out by him, and yet she still ends up insta-loving him. Again, I can see that, but it is a young adult book. I feel like insta-love is very common in young adult books. The amount of times that I cringed while reading this novel is higher than the number of fingers on my hand. This book was struggling as it was without the added plot holes brought in by angels. This novel almost reads like a fan fiction. I gave this book 1 star because I managed to finish it within a day, and it gave me trashy pleasure. See, I think that that is great. I think that the whole you read it in one sitting, and though you liked the book, it was still like, it was a trashy love. I think that that is the perfect way to describe books like this, but I don't see that in a bad way. It's like watching a crappy rom-com that you just know is gonna be like cringy or like super cheesy or cliche, but you still watch it anyways and love the entire experience, because you can kind of like make fun of it or cringe or get secondhand embarrassment, but also still have a good time. I like that. I like that kind of book, you know? I already know people are not going to be coming to play with these 1-star reviews. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It is highly debated about whether it is a 1-star versus 5-star. There's rarely people in the middle. I rated it a 5-star, but I can also see some bad things, because for a good chunk of the book I was like, I'm not into this book, it is boring, it is blah, I just don't like it. But after I finished it and got through it all, I realized the beauty of the book, so I am very excited to see what people have to say. Melodramatic AF, epitome of predictability. Fair. This book is kind of melodramatic. It's about a girl who can't be remembered by anybody until the like love interest comes around and he remembers her, even though the book is, it's definitely not a romance. So that's why I say love interest with quotes, with air quotes, because I don't think this book can be construed as a romance in any sort of light. This review is so fruitful. If you like this book, good for you, but me, it was so boring, overhyped, and underwhelming. This book can sit on my middle finger and rotate. Though I really liked The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I still think me and this reviewer would be besties. One of the funniest and probably most vulgar Goodreads reviews I've ever seen on a book, and honestly fair. I will respect you for it. While this is a newer 5-star for me, as I just read it earlier this year, I want to read some of the 1-star reviews to The Bridge Kingdom. I feel like there's gonna be more of the funny girly pops on the fantasy books. Stop recommending books with 0 character depth, please. The main character has the personality of a soup spoon, and the love interest judgment is based on his small energy. Thanks, but no. I have agreed in the past with some more hyped up books from YouTube, TikTok, all of the social media platforms, that a lot of the plots and characters just aren't very well thought out, or they don't have a ton of depth. So I do agree. Not about The Bridge Kingdom though. I think that The Bridge Kingdom was well done. I do agree that some of the characters in the first part of the first book, I was like, why am I supposed to care about you, but once you actually get through it, and especially like get through to the end of the first book and read the second one, they are really entertaining. So I don't agree, but it is funny. What if Romeo and Juliet, but instead of just being dumb to each other, they also doom their respective kingdoms? If you enjoy hero/heroines with zero going on upstairs, this is the book for you. The only way this plot works is if both these supremely stupid people decide that they should just be hot and not use their brain, not even for 1 minute. I knew the situations for 5 seconds and knew exactly who to trust and who was full of shit. But these two spent the whole book wondering about it. Please, I can't with them. And before anyone says anything, these are adults. This is not YA, so why does it feel like YA? Wow, that is a read for sure, because I don't remember the characters being empty-headed the entire time. I feel like there was parts of the book where it was kind of obvious to the reader what was happening, but I feel like some of us have just read so many books that you can kind of guess what's gonna happen most of the time, but that doesn't mean that every book should get a 1 star, right? This book made me want to rip my hair out and punch a wall. It was so horrible. I don't think we read the same book. I don't know. I mean, I think I also listened to it on audiobook, and I feel like the narrators did a really good job, and I feel like there was like background, there was like sound effects and stuff to the audiobook that made it more intriguing. Nothing was believable in this story. The characters' motivations were weak and one-sided. The romance was completely forced, and I was just super disappointed by this, considering how hyped it is. Considering also that their romance was technically, yes, forced. It was an arranged marriage. To have love bloom from an arranged marriage, that's like, that's a good thing, right? Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I already know that there's gonna be some hate on this book. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Ali Hazelwood books are not for everybody because they are pretty spicy, so I feel like we're gonna be seeing a whole lot of that. Can she stop writing books about science? And in general, who gave this woman a laptop, and whoever it was, please delete her Word document app. I am going to probably forever be an Ali Hazelwood stan, and I will defend her name in the STEM women community because I am a woman in STEM, and I see that in the comments of this, like in this review, there's comments that are talking about how people like women in STEM did not want her representation, they do not want her STEM romances, but I do, because there's not a whole lot of them, at least that I've found. I feel like there's not a lot of STEM romances out there that I've seen, and definitely not ones that I would love as much as I've loved Ali Hazelwood's work. I don't know that for sure. Love Theoretically is my all-time favorite Ali Hazelwood book, but I just wanted to pick one of them to use for this video. But I don't agree. I think she should keep writing some science-y romances. And Ali Hazelwood is a woman in STEM, so her romances are women in STEM. If you've read one Ali Hazelwood, you've read them all. I'm bored. Big strong man swoops in to take care of mousy little woman, throwing a bunch of big science words. I do agree with the large man, small woman thing. I don't particularly love that. That is a very common theme in Ali Hazelwood's books, but also a ton of other romance authors, because that is just something that has been engraved into the romance part of society, is that a woman needs to be small and a man needs to be big, and that is just not true. I think that that is just something that is very common throughout romance in general, and it is something that I usually dock stars for, but Ali Hazelwood's books usually, like, the rest of the book makes up for it. But I do agree with that point. I do think that they are right. So maybe this book should have been a 4-star for me, at least, because I also did not like that part of the book, but we carry on. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is one of my top rated romances, so I'm excited to see how people tear it down. Ironically, this book will make you no longer a book lover. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. This one gave the book 0.7 stars, not even a 1 star, 0.7. It was that bad. Things I don't like about this book: it was boring. There, I said it. I have no interest in the characters, the sisterhood, the romance, the setting, or the side plots. Nothing piqued my interest, and that's bad. Well, yeah, if you didn't like any single point of the book, then the book was not worth even finishing. You probably should have DNF'd it. So cliche, so full of bad tropes, so cringe that reading this book is like a full body workout. I will applaud you for giving a book under 1 star. Which at that point, what's the rate? What are the point stars even for at that point? I'm giving props to that person, because that's impressive. I don't think I've found a book that was in between a 0 and a 1 star before. This review is so long, but I'm just going to read you the conclusion because I think it about sums it up. I just don't like this book and I can't complain about it anymore, or else I'll just never touch a book again. Don't read it. Bye-bye. We were talking about melodramatic earlier. I think we found it. I ripped this book apart and burned it. The drama majors are coming out to play in these 1-star reviews. These people are funny. I think a large part of why these videos are really entertaining is just because people on Goodreads love the dramatics. Some of these reviews are like, oh, I don't like soap operas, but Goodreads reviews in themselves is like a soap opera. And we're gonna end it off on this one. I just love the taste of nothing. And that's fair. Romances sometimes leave me utterly disappointed and sad. I don't think I can take any more of reading the amount of hate that some of the books that I rated 5 stars get, so I think I'm just gonna have to end it here. But I do hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I would love to do more of these kind of like sit down and reacting to things that people on the internet have to say, so let me know down below if you enjoyed it, and make sure to show somebody some kindness today, and I will see you guys in the next video.